Unveiling the shocking truth, 1 hour to manifest billionaire lifestyle at 3 a.m. Dare to visualize. The clock struck 3, echoing through the quiet night like a sinister invitation. Would you dare? Just 1 hour to glimpse the life of wealth and luxury, to pluck your dreams from obscurity and toss them into the glaring light of reality. And yet, the truth shrouded this promise like a thick fog. It was said that strange energies swirled in the room at that hour, twisting thoughts into tangible form. They whispered secrets to those bold enough to listen, luring them with visions of private jets, diamond-spangled lives, and unyielding power. But here's the magnetic twist: no one who dared to practice this ritual had returned unscathed. Linda, the barista from downtown, swore she saw shadows flicker behind her closed eyelids, shadowy figures with hollow eyes watching her every move. Tommy, the courier, found himself haunted by fleeting images of opulence, only to wake up trapped in bills and worry. Skeptical at first, they devised a plan to test this theory. Footsteps echoed down the darkened alleyway as they gathered in Linda's dimly lit apartment, each bearing a unique longing and a burning ember of ambition in their hearts. Tension hung thick in the air, alive and crackling. Would they unleash something powerful, or awaken nightmares they couldn't control? The others exchanged looks, eyes wide, mouths dry. They could already feel something stirring, a change, a pulse growing stronger with every second. They were about to step into the unknown, the invisible boundary between fantasy and reality. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, Tommy whispered, "What if this works?" The words hung in the air, vibrating with hope and dread. Just as Linda reached for the candle, the room flickered a flash of light that left a chill running down their spines. Echoes of long-lost dreams began to swirl around them, revealing glimmers of potential. What would happen next? Would they be drawn into a world beyond their wildest imaginations, or would they face repercussions from forces they couldn't understand? The tension built, coiling tightly in their chests as the hour ticked away. What awaited them in this dark hour, a billion-dollar dream or an unshakable nightmare? The candle flickered wildly, casting long, eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Linda hesitated, her fingers trembling as she grasped the match. Behind her, Tommy's breath caught in his throat. "What if we lose control?" he whispered, fear squeezing his chest. Those shadowy figures creeping into her mind felt more real with every passing thought. The room was thick with uncertainty. Everyone could sense it, the impending doom mixed with the sweet scent of possibility. Linda ignited the wick, and suddenly the darkness seemed to pulse in response. She felt a jolt of energy, as if the shadows were reaching out to her, waiting to be summoned. "Let us do this," she urged, her voice steadier than her hands. The group formed a tight circle around the flickering flame, their eyes locked on the candle as if willing it to grant their desires. One by one, they closed their eyes. Each person began to visualize their dreams. Linda imagined a thriving cafe, brimming with patrons seeking her unique brews. Tommy saw himself soaring through the skies, delivering packages with ease and precision, free from financial concerns. The air thickened, the vibrations of their aspirations melding into one enormous wave, time twisted in on itself. Each tick of the clock echoed like thunder, amplifying their mounting anxiety. Suddenly, a whisper broke through the silence, cold and pitiless. "You must give something to receive." A sharp gasp escaped Linda's lips. The whispered message hung heavy in the air, making the warmth of the candle feel like a distant memory. What did they have to give? What was the cost of their dreams? "Did you hear that?" Tommy's voice trembled as he opened his eyes. Panic reflected in their gaze, and for a moment, the unity they felt dissolved. The shadows seemed to inch closer, filling the room with an oppressive presence. What do they want? Jessie, a friend of Linda's, murmured, glancing frantically around the room. This feels wrong, just focus. Linda insisted. We can't let fear take over. But her voice quavered, betraying the doubt creeping into her mind. Suddenly, the candle flickered more violently, casting ghostly figures against the walls, illusions of the life they desired but twisted grotesquely, promising fortune but hinting at loss. In that moment, each of them felt a flicker of recognition. This was not merely illusions, these were glimpses of lives they could lead, teetering on the edge of darkness. Keep visualizing. Tommy shouted, standing to confront the shadows, bravely searching for a way out. But just as he spoke, a deeper darkness enveloped the room. It snuffed out the candle's light, plunging them into utter blackness. Their voices broke into terrified whispers, echoing back at them, now disembodied and distorted. What have we unleashed? Each of them pondered, heartbeats racing in unison. Then, piercing through the silence, a low, ethereal laugh emerged, chilling their bones. It promised them unimaginable wealth, a life devoid of struggle, but with an unsettling consequence dangling like a blade poised over their heads. Was it too late to turn back? Did they have the strength to face whatever dark path awaited them? As fear clutched at their throats, an unsettling realization took hold. Sometimes dreams come at a price far greater than they could ever imagine, and then, a sudden rush of cold wind swept through the apartment, scattering their visions like feathers in a storm. They were about to find out exactly what that price was. As the shadows closed in, Linda felt a force pulling her toward the void. Would they break free from the sinister grip of greed, or would they succumb to the sacrifices demanded? The hour had begun, but what were they manifesting? The stakes were dangerously high and the price remains unspoken. What would they discover as they ventured deeper into the shadows? The chill in the room intensified, wrapping around Linda like a suffocating shroud. Heart pounding, she tried to fight the pull, but the darkness was relentless. It whispered promises, sweet and sickly, slipping into her ears with the allure of forbidden knowledge. It taunted her dreams like a devil at her shoulder. Get a grip. Tommy shouted, desperation creating a rough edge to his voice. He reached for the air, as if grasping at the energy swirling around them, trying to hold the threatening shadows at bay. But they were no longer just shadows. They morphed into dark figures, gnarly silhouettes with elongated limbs, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. Jessie screamed, breaking the horrified silence. What do you want from us? Her voice cracked, panic spilling over like a wave. The laughter echoed again, more sinister this time, resonating through the dark corners of the room. All you need to do is offer a piece of your soul. Linda's breath hitched. Her stomach twisted as dread pulled within her. The words felt ominous, ringing with an unholy clarity. No, she murmured, clutching her arms as the chilling grip of fear tightened around her. We can fight this. Fight what? Tommy snapped, eyes darting, searching for a way out. Fight the darkness, or fight our dreams. Because it feels like we're being pulled apart. But he was right. It was suffocating. Linda could almost see the tug-of-war between hope and despair playing out in the room, feeding off their fear. Suddenly, the pitch-black void erupted with flickers of what could be a cafe buzzing with happy faces, Tommy soaring high above the city, Jessie on stage as a star. The visions were tempting, yet twisted, showing glimpses of joy wrapped in eeriness. Each dream carried a price tag, and they all sensed it. I want to do it. Jessie shouted defiantly, but Linda could see the tremor in her hands, the uncertainty flickering in her eyes. The shadows twisted together, forming a massive figure encircled by darkness, overpowering them with palpable dread. It raised a hand, a long, bony digit pointed straight at Linda. You wanted this. A rich life, free from pain. All it cost is a fraction of your light. Linda's mind raced. What was a fraction of her light? What did that even mean? Would she lose part of herself for the dreams she dared to visualize? No. We can choose what we give. She shouted, gathering whatever courage she could muster. Maybe if we stand together, but hesitance crept into her heart. Together? The shadows whispered, their voices weaving in and out like a dark wind. Or alone, in a haunted abyss. Who else wants your dreams? Look around, the truth crashed into her. The confidence they had once shared now eroded, like the last rays of sunlight swallowed by night. She felt their anxious glances, each riddled with doubt. Tommy's voice broke through her thoughts. We can't trust them, Linda. But as the looming figure shifted, its voice dripped with honeyed promises. You can't trust yourselves, either. Look long enough and you'll see the dreams come at a cost. Stop! Jessie shouted, but the shadows hissed in delight, feeding off their disarray. Linda felt their resolve waning. Would they fight, or would they succumb to the intoxicating lure of their heart's desires? Cold sweat trickled down her back. In that moment of despair, the flicker of hope ignited within her, the urge to turn this around. She could still feel the warmth of the candle's flame, buried in her memory, urging her not to abandon her friends or herself. With a surge of determination, she turned to Tommy and Jessie. We cannot give in. We didn't come here to sacrifice ourselves for dreams. We'll reclaim what's ours. Together. But even as she spoke those words, the shadows moved, swirling ominously, tightening their grip on reality. As if anticipating their defiance, the darkness surged, roaring louder, ready to consume them with doubt and despair. Will you join your hearts for the price, or will you perish together? The voice echoed chillingly, challenging their courage. Linda closed her eyes, gripping Tommy and Jessie's hands tightly. Was it too late to back away from the brink? Would they forge their own path, or drift helplessly into despair? As they braced themselves against the shadows, the temperature dropped, and a flicker of light sparked again. Was the candle rekindling? Or was it something far more sinister awakening in the depths of the darkness? The choice hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. What would follow this moment could shatter their hopes or ignite a fierce resolve. The question loomed, could they brave the darkness and seize the light together? The shadows roared, a guttural sound that clawed at their ears, drowning out any shred of rational thought. Meanwhile, Linda clutched tighter to her friends, feeling the tremors in their bodies. Fear pulsed through the air like an electric current, and for an instant, hope felt like a flickering candle on the verge of being snuffed out. Breathe! Tommy shouted, though the words felt lost amidst the chaos. With every ounce of restraint, Linda forced herself to open her eyes, piercing the thick veil of darkness. We have to trust each other, she urged, her voice trembling. I can't do this alone. The flickering lights of imagined futures danced around them, pulling at their hearts, at their fears. A hawk fluttered through the night sky, cutting through the fog of despair. Would she trade a piece of her essence for a lifeline? She could taste the bittersweet temptation, sweeter than the last bites of a cake that promised fulfillment, but every bite came with a price. I can't believe I'm saying this, Jessie murmured, her voice barely audible. But what if they're right? What if we can't do this unless we sacrifice something? No! Linda yelled, her voice breaking through the thickening fog of doubt. You can't think like that. Don't let them mess with your mind. The shadows twisted, whispering promises that beckoned to their deepest desires. But who could blame you? A bit of light for so much happiness. Wouldn't it be worth it? Tommy's forehead wrinkled in thought. It's a trick. They're playing with us. We need to fight back. As they stood there, the figure in the darkness seemed to swell, looming over them, making the walls seem to pulse with ancient power. Linda's heart raced. The figure's cold, long fingers caressed the air, drawing closer, the chill realizing the depth of her fear. Fight or flee, the entity rasped, the choice is yours. But know this, your fate is intertwined. Would you rather live in shadows or bathe in the light of fulfilled dreams? Linda thought of her dreams' simple moments, like the laughter shared over coffee with friends, the rush of flying during her morning jog, the applause of a crowd that adored Jessie's voice. All memories wrapped in love, and yet a nagging chasm whispered of self-doubt. She stumbled back, feeling the walls start to close in. If we let them choose for us, we'll end up with nothing. She cried. I'd rather keep my light and fight through the dark. All we have to do is hold on to each other. Suddenly, strength flooded her, igniting a glowing warmth in her chest. We can't give in. We prove our worth by not losing ourselves. The shadows recoiled momentarily as if Linda's words struck a real blow, a reminder of the spark they each carried, fighting to blaze through the weight of despair. Do you see? The dark figure hissed, words practically dripping with venom. The more you resist, the more delicious the sacrifice will be. As the darkness pulsated angrily, flickering and twisting violently, Tommy stepped between Linda and the figure. Come on, Jesse. We can't let them have us. Tommy! Jesse cried out, but he stood firm, a beacon against the overwhelming tide. The shadows erupted as they struggled against their instinct to flee. Fear gripped them, coaxing them into the idea that surrender could be easier than the battle against despair. What if we're not strong enough? Jesse's voice quivered, a plea drowned out by the chaotic wails of the shadows, but Linda felt the heat building again, a solidarity blooming. What if we stand together? She felt the resolve thrumming in her chest, wanting to spill over. We can be stronger than this. With a synchronized breath, the three friends huddled closer, a wall of defiance against the darkness. The shadows seemed to ring around them, slashing at their resolve. But within the circle of their clasped hands, warmth ignited, illuminating the space. Suddenly, the candle flickered violently, bursting into a fierce flame that brightened the entire room, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The shadows shrieked a sound that clawed at the edges of their sanity, cracking like ice beneath pressure. Together! Linda shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony as the three friends focused on the flickering flame, feeding it with their dream. But the shadows trembled, black tendrils reaching towards the light, attempting to latch onto what sparked hope. Do you truly believe this will save you? Linda's heart raced as she felt the light wane for just a second, flickering ominously. We will not go down without a fight. But at that moment, the realization crashed over them like waves. A sliver of emptiness burned brighter than any fire could fade. The dimension of choice sprawled before them, and a chilling revelation set in. Was the candle brightening enough to disperse the shadows, or were they merely blinding themselves to the greater darkness roaring just beyond their reach? This was not just a matter of light versus dark, it was a test of their very souls, and the labyrinthine path stretched infinitely ahead. Push through! Tommy cried, but as the shadows writhed and sneered, Linda couldn't shake the haunting question that twisted in her veins. Had they just awakened something far worse, waiting in the recesses of the dark, to rend their spirits? When they faltered, her fingers tightened around her friends, praying the flame would prevail, and yet with the awareness of what lingered in the silent shadows, the battle had just begun. The flame pulsated, weaving a fragile barrier against the encroaching shadows. It danced wildly, casting erratic light patterns against the jagged walls, a rhythm echoing their heartbeat. Each flicker drew a shudder from Linda, her senses heightened as the shadows howled in fury. Stay close! She shouted, adrenaline sharp as a knife. If we break apart, they'll take us one by one. Tommy locked eyes with her, his expression fierce and determined. I won't let that happen. We're stronger together. Jessie's breath came in ragged gasps, but she nodded, her spirit ignited by their bond. Let us do this! She yelled, holding their hands even tighter. With that unyielding grip, they closed their eyes, harnessing every ounce of unspoken dreams, the spontaneous laughter at midnight, the carefree adventures under endless skies, the exhilarating rush of love and loss. They imagined it all, infusing the flame with their shared memories, pushing back against the darkness. The shadows writhed, recoiling from the light, but their laugh twisted into chilling whispers. Feel your dreams. Do they fill your hearts or simply feed your fears? Perhaps what you cherish is what truly binds you. Linda shuddered. No. We're not giving in. Yet doubt seeped through the cracks. What if they were too late? What if the shadows knew deeper truths than they could comprehend? Sweat beaded on her brow, her pulse thundering in her ears as she fought to keep those thoughts at bay. Suddenly, a chill enveloped Tommy's arm, a frigid tendril snaking around him. Tommy! Jessie screamed, but it was too late. The shadow sensed weakness, lurking and circling. No. Linda's voice pierced the gloom, her heart racing. Do not let go. Tommy's face twisted in struggle as the shadow tightened, dragging him backward. Push. Don't look back. Fight through. He shouted through gritted teeth, eyes blazing. The flame flickered in response, wavering as if sensing their internal battle. With a surge of courage, Linda pushed her energy into the fire. For every dark thought, there is a spark of light. We're fighting to stay whole. As her conviction ignited the flame anew, it erupted brighter, casting stark shadows against the walls. But the dark figure slithered forward, distorted and menacing, its eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. Fools! It spat, its voice echoing with a mixture of contempt and hunger. Your dreams are a feast, your hopes are mere grains of sand. With every second that passes, your bonds weaken. Linda's breath caught. What if they could feel the threads of their connection fraying? We are not weak. We are love. We are friendship. At that moment, Jessie let out a primal scream, breaking through the noise around them. Don't you see? We're stronger because we know what it is to lose. Those shadows can't have our hearts. With those words, the atmosphere trembled. Linda felt an overwhelming surge, warmth flowing through her veins, pulses of strength shared between them. They were not alone. The shadows seethed, the figure flinching as the trio pumped their collective will into the flame, its brightness caressing the darkness like a lover rebelling against betrayal. But just as it seemed the tide was turning, the very air thickened, the shadow surged forward with an unnatural speed. Linda's heart slammed against her chest. Had they awakened the beast? Gather your strength. Focus on each other. Tommy urged, eyes mirroring the determination they could almost taste. But with every breath the dark figure took, the atmosphere roared in outrage, as if condemning their effort. Linda felt desperation clawing at her throat. What if it was just physical strength they needed? What was the price of their freedom? Caught in the eye of the storm, she realized that the shadows were not just a force to fight, they were a mirror reflecting their deepest fears. She felt the warmth fading as uncertainty gripped her heart. Hold on! She yelled, but her voice faltered. Could they truly break through? In that moment, she wondered if they could ever be free of the nightmarish grip, or had they woven themselves into the very fabric of darkness. The shadows hissed, but with a final, electric pulse, Linda made a choice. Whatever it takes. We fight for our souls. With newfound energy, they lashed out, and the flame surged one last time, illuminating the chamber in an erratic blaze, testing every fragile restraint. But was it enough? Each second felt impossibly stretched as the dark figure recoiled, but just behind it, shadows spiraled like a tornado, ready to engulf them. Linda! Tommy's voice broke through the acrid air, pulling her from her thoughts. What do we do next? As the abyss threatened to swallow them whole, she felt time distort, and the weight of eternity pressed down. Was their collective effort enough to conquer the void, or had they simply ignited the full fury of the shadows? The answer hung heavily in the air, and just as the flame threatened to dim again, the portal of shadows whirled, eager to claim their souls. Would they be brave enough to jump into the unknown? The shadows lunged. Linda's heart raced as the darkness coiled closer, and with a desperate breath, she felt the collective pulse of her friends. They were anchored together, but the shadows were getting craftier, weaving through their defenses with cruel precision. Snap out of it. Focus. Jessie's voice rang like a clarion call, snapping Linda back into the fight. We need to remember who we are. I remember. Tommy's voice trembled, his grip tight around Linda's hand. I remember you, I remember us. As if summoned by their memories, a warm glow surged through the flame. Linda could feel it, an energy filling the chamber, hope flickering resiliently against the cold jab of despair. Let us remember what unites us. Linda shouted, pulling the energy even tighter around them. We are laughter. We are family. We are strong. The flame brightened again, casting a fierce glow, illuminating even the deepest parts of the abyss. But the dark figure hissed, twisting into a grotesque shape, mocking their strength with a gurgling laugh. Does your joy offer sanctuary? Or will it turn tainted in the bitterness of loss? That won't happen. Jessie cried defiantly. Our joy fuels us. You can't turn light into darkness. With each declaration, their connection thickened, wrapping them in an invisible shield. But the shadows lashed back, dark tendrils striking like venomous vipers. Linda felt one wrap around her ankle, pulling her down, cold and clammy. Hold on. Fight it. Tommy shouted through gritted teeth, but as the chilling grip tightened, doubt seeped in again. Were they really strong enough? Let go. Linda gasped, the words barely escaping her lips. This is your trick. You want to make us doubt. But we want to give in. Feeling her spirit wane, panic spiraled in her chest. The shadows crawled closer, whispers echoing in an ancient language that burrowed under her skin. What if your memories aren't strong enough? What if this fight has already broken you? No. The conviction spilled from her lips, igniting a renewed fire. Stay with us. We are more than our fears. The flame shivered, responding to her defiance. It pushed back against the darkness, creating pockets of warmth amid the icy sting that ensnared them. Then, out of the chaos, something shifted. A crack appeared in the dark horizon, a thin sliver of light breaking through hope like a lighthouse piercing a storm. But it was fleeting, almost mocking. Together! Jessie shouted, her voice piercing through the fog. We can do this! They all took a deep breath, focusing on that sliver of light. The flame surged again, a brilliant burst crackling through the room. The shadows recoiled in horror, flailing like animals caught in a trap. We are stronger than you will ever know. Tommy's shout echoed, firm, unwavering. Yet, even as daring words filled the void, the dark figure swirled into a tempest, growing larger, its presence wretched yet alluring. Linda felt a new sense of urgency. What if they still weren't enough? The warmth began to fade once more, the shadows creeping ever closer, thirsting for an opportunity to drown their resolve. As if sensing her uncertainty, the shadows shifted, their voices chilling her soul. What if that light was just a flicker? A mere mirage before the abyss. Embrace the surrender, become one with the night. Linda's breath caught. Could it be true? Was their fight in vain? No. We refuse. Jessie screamed, we refuse to let our fears take our hearts. At that moment, Linda felt the chains of doubt attempt to pull her under. She struggled to maintain her focus, but it was hard when the darkness wrapped around them like an embrace, promising freedom from the pain of their struggle. Could they fight off the shadows with mere memories and a flickering flame, or had they merely ignited the storm? As the darkness prowled ever closer, ready to pounce with its fangs bared, Linda steeled herself. We have to believe. The glimmer of hope strengthened once more, but an even deeper fear reared its ugly head. If they unleashed the true power of their bond, what would remain? In that moment, Linda faced the truth head first. The shadows were only half the battle. The real war lay within. As the shadows coiled tighter, she felt every heartbeat synchronized with her friends. Could they pull forth a strength beyond themselves, one that could illuminate even the darkest corners of their souls? The abyss was waiting, and now more than ever, they had to leap. But would they find salvation, or would it lead to something far more terrifying? The shadows lunged again, relentless and keen, like a pack of wolves ravenous for their prey. Linda's heart thudded hard against her chest. Time stretched, the air thick with anticipation. She felt their grip tightening, the cold plunging deeper, like claws digging into her very essence. It was a cry for help that felt both beyond reach and too close to ignore. Don't let it in. Don't let them pull you down. Jessie shouted, feisty as ever, even as her words trembled against the weight of despair. The voice of the dark figure seeped through the encroaching dread, its whispers laced with poison. You think you fight with memories, but they are flickers, delusions in the face of truth. Embrace the darkness, and you will find peace. No. Tommy shouted, drawing a line in the sand, his spirit unyielding. There is no peace in surrender. We stand together or we fall apart. The air shifted around them, making the connection feel electric. Linda could see the threads of light cascading from their joined hands, illuminating the darkness in vibrant hues, pushing the shadows back. But still, they crept forward, shifting and swirling. The dark figure morphed, taking on familiar faces, friends and family who had once loved them, now twisted in torment. Look at what you've lost. It taunted, as memories clawed at their resolve. What have you gained in this fight? Nothing but heartache. With every word, an ache settled in Linda's chest. Propelled by the primal urge to resist but pulled by the emptiness left behind, she felt a surge of fear mingle with doubt. It was darker than anything she had faced before, a quicksand of guilt and sorrow. Memories of laughter shattered by echoes of grief pulsed through her mind. Those were good times, but they won't carry us through. She cried out, voice thick with emotion. We've made new memories. Ones that give us strength. In the face of despair, our joy burns brighter. Jessie pressed, her expression fierce. This tight-knit group of friends had forged a bond, one that even the deepest darkness struggled to sever, but the shadows only stirred. Your memories are shackles. They only remind you of what you will never have again, the figure hissed, its low growl reverberating in the chamber like a stone dropped in water, rippling outward into the thickening night. Linda felt her resolve start to crack, her confidence tapering into sharp edges of fear. Was their fight futile? Enough! Tommy's shout rang through the chaos like a bell. We aren't just our past. We get to write our future, together. That's right. Jessie yelled, her voice rallying the group, driving through the fog enveloping them. We are more than our scars. We are laughter, we are love, we are alive. A potent energy surged through Linda, electric and fierce. With each commitment they made to each other, the darkness hissed, struggling against the tidal wave of their bond. They gripped each other tighter, feeling warmth radiate, a contrast to the cold that gnawed at their spirits. In that moment of unity, a wave of light ignited, a delicious warmth that spread through their limbs, pushing against the suffocating darkness. Linda looked up, heart swelling with a renewed courage. The shadows faltered for a heartbeat, illusion cracking under the intensity of their collective fearlessness. But then the dark figure let out a howl, furious and shrill, summoning more shadows that rushed to fill the gaps, forming monstrous shapes that twisted and turned like smoke. You think you can escape? You belong to the darkness now. Only if we let ourselves. Jessie retorted. And we want tea. With every ounce of strength, they drew closer, the flame of hope now blazing between them, a lighthouse beacon cutting through the storm. Linda felt lighter, more connected. But there was a lingering dread, a question thudding against her mind. What if all this energy sparked something darker within them? What if the act of unleashing this bond led them to something more harrowing than mere shadows? As the storm intensified, twisting the shadows into terrifying shapes, Linda braced herself. It was now or never. Could they potentially unleash a flood that could drown them all? The shadows rolled overhead like ominous storm clouds, taunting her with their relentless advance as they prepared to strike once more. With nowhere left to retreat, Linda took a deep breath, locking eyes with her friends. Are we ready to leap? But even as they nodded affirmatively, a chilling uncertainty hung in the air. What would they find on the other side? Linda felt the pulse of fear thrumming in her veins, matching the frantic beat of her heart. They stood on the edge of something colossal and unknown. Shadows swirled above them like a storm waiting to break. The air crackled with energy as they clung to each other, forming a tight circle of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Together! Tommy shouted, his voice slicing through the oppressive air. No matter what happens, we face it as one. With a shared breath, they leaped into the chaotic whirl of shadow, hands still clasped tight, hearts racing like wild horses. It felt like plummeting into a void, a freefall that twisted the gut and blurred the edges of reality. As the darkness enveloped them, the world around vanished. Then, a blinding light erupted, engulfing their senses, filling them with warmth. Linda squeezed her eyes shut against the sudden brilliance, and when she opened them again, they stood on solid ground, yet everything was different. The landscape stretched out before them, impossibly vivid. Lush green swayed in gentle gusts, radiant flowers bloomed like confetti, and a stream ran clear, glimmering in the sunlight. This beauty was surreal, almost dreamlike, yet a heavy tension lurked beneath it. What just happened? Jessie breathed, her eyes wide, scanning the enchanting scene. Is this a trick? No, Tommy replied slowly, his voice trailing off. He squinted toward the horizon, haunted by some distant echo. This feels surreal. Like a smokescreen. Linda felt it too, a tugging at her consciousness, a whisper that beckoned from beyond the beauty. We need to stay focused on each other, she cautioned, her instinct flaring with alarm. Don't get lost in whatever this is. But the shadows hung at the edges of their vision, dark drapes creeping unseen. You stepped from one darkness to another, the dark figure's mocking voice floated through the air, echoing all around. Do you think you can escape so easily? Fear cascaded through Linda like ice water. No. We won't fall for your tricks. Yet doubt slunk in, gnawing at her confidence. What if their determination had unleashed something far worse? This place was beautiful, deceptive, and ripe with danger. They had replaced one nightmare for another, a gilded cage. Suddenly, a thunderous roar split the tranquility, and before them, the earth trembled. From the vibrant flowers, dark forms rose, grotesque and twisted, blooming from the very ground they stood on. Faces they once recognized, friends turned to nightmarish specters, stared back at them, mouths agape in silent screams. Linda froze, dread pulling in her stomach. What do they want? They want to drag us down. Jessie shouted, defiance sparking in her eyes. They want us to succumb to despair. The shadows converged, and the twisted figures began to chant, voices melding into a cacophony of pain. You cannot run from who you are. You are ours to claim. No. Tommy roared, thrusting his hands outward, summoning light from their connection. We are not your puppets. As he shouted, a beam radiated from their clasped hands, slicing through the darkness like a sword. The light pushed back against the shadows, scattering them momentarily, but Linda felt the toll and ache radiated from her core, fatigue starting to grasp at her limbs, dragging down her spirit. We have to summon everything we have. She gasped, the weight of the shadows threatening to pull her into despair. We face this together. Together, the word echoed in her mind. If they were strong enough to stand as one, they could resist. In that moment, they felt the strength of their bond swirl around them like a shield. With renewed determination, they focused their energy, igniting every ounce of hope, joy, and laughter they had conjured through their journey. But as the darkness recoiled, a piercing shriek erupted from the shadows, a haunting wail that clawed at their hearts. As the shadows buckled, Linda caught a glimpse of something in the depths, a terrifying truth hidden beneath the grotesque forms. In that moment, eyes widened, realizing they had awoken not just the shadows, but something within themselves, an unrecognizable power that threatened to overtake them completely. What new horrors lay just beneath the surface of their awakened strength? As the shadows regrouped, chaos unfurled once more, pushing them to the brink. Would they stand firm, or would they lose everything they had built? In the heart of the storm, they knew, the real battle was just beginning. The shadows churned like a tempest, thickening and swirling as Linda and her friends stood their ground, heartbeats synchronizing with the thrumming darkness. Each pulse echoed the fear that clawed at their resolve. Tommy's face was set, but even the strongest among them could feel the creeping dread, a chill that clung to the skin and weighed down the spirit. Hold on. Linda shouted, squeezing Tommy's hands tighter. Focus on the light. We can beat this. The cacophony of spectral voices rose, their whispers like knives slicing through the air. Doubts began to gnaw at the edges of her mind. What if this was all they would ever know, trapped forever in this surreal nightmare? What if their powers would ultimately lead to ruin? Just as that thought began to solidify into concrete fear, Jessie broke through the chaos. We have to remember our purpose. She yelled, her eyes blazing. Why we're here. To fight for each other. Gathering her breath, Linda plunged deeper into her heart's truest memories, laughter by a campfire, summer nights under stars, and shared secrets. Each thought ignited a flicker of light within her, pushing the darkness back just enough to make room for clarity. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, taller, darker, with eyes swirling like voids. It was the dark figure, now more distinct, its features twisted yet familiar. You think you can defeat me with memories? It sneered, voice like gravel. You're nothing but echoes of the past, and I am your future, your fate. A flash of recognition stabbed through Linda. You're not us. You're a distortion. You want us to believe we're empty. Yes. Embrace it. The figure hissed, stretching a hand toward them. Shadows curled like hungry snakes, lunging out, trying to latch onto their ankles, to pull them down into despair. Keep focusing. Tommy shouted, his voice barely breaking through the din. We have the light within us. This is our fight. As they channeled their energy back toward the dark figure, Linda felt warmth building, a surge like electricity, crossing the tenuous line between despair and determination. The darkness hissed and shrieked, but they pushed harder, pulling together as one. Yet just when it seemed they were gaining ground, a bone-chilling eruption tore through the serene beauty around them. The flowers wilted and turned to ash, the vibrant colors draining to muted tones. A wave of darkness rolled forth, crashing against their illumination and shattering the world they had known in an instant. Linda felt terror blooming within. What now? She gasped, fear squeezing her throat. Don't look away. Jessie cried. It feeds on our fear. But the shadows thickened, mocking laughter reverberating in the air like thunder. They twisted into reminders of past failures, heartbreaking losses, shattered dreams, and regrets longing to consume them. Each image was a dagger to her heart, each memory crushing a little more of her spirit. I can't do this, Linda whispered, feeling the ground beneath her feet tremble dangerously. Tommy's grip tightened. Yes, you can. We are stronger than our past. We are more than these shadows. Linda looked deep into his eyes, finding a flicker of hope against the stifling dark. Resolutely, they formed a circle again, digging deeper within themselves, pulling forth the glimmers of light buried beneath the weight of despair. With an unyielding shout, they released their combined energy. The air exploded in a radiant blast of light, forcing the shadows back, shattering the oppressive hold. But the figure howled in rage, retreating only to tool a new strategy in its darkness. As the light swirled around them, illuminating their path, something below the surface shifted. Linda caught a glimpse of movement, a new form emerging, much larger, with a terrifying power of its own. A new shadow loomed dangerously close. What was that? She breathed, her heart racing again, pulse surging with dread and exhilaration. Tommy exchanged worried glances with the others, realization dawning in their eyes. It wasn't just the dark figure they had awakened, there was another force at play, equally malevolent and powerful. As the shadows began to twist and turn, building a force to break through the light, Linda felt the weight of their mission pressing down harder than ever. Would they meet this new challenge together, or would the true nightmares of this world finally consume them whole? The storm of shadows was just gathering strength. They needed to prepare. The fight had only just begun. The darkness surged around them, a choking fog of despair, but Linda felt the flame of hope flickering in the depths of her heart. They had come this far, they couldn't let fear overtake them now. The shadowy figure loomed larger, its twisted form intensifying against the radiant light they generated together. Focus! Tommy shouted, and they drew together, hands clasped tight like a lifeline, refusing to let go. The air crackled with tension, a fight between despair and resilience. Linda peered deeper into the void, her mind racing. Despite the fear clawing at her throat, she could feel the warmth of her friends beside her. They were stronger together. We create our future, she declared, her voice trembling yet resolute. I'm not afraid of you, Jessie yelled, defiance etched on her face. We choose hope. With that pledge echoed in the air, a surge radiated from their joined hands, a burst of warmth that cascaded into the surrounding shadows. The darkness shrieked, pulling back, writhing and twisting, but it was only momentary. The air thickened to a deafening silence. What came next felt like time freezing. With a chilling howl, the dark figure lunged forward, its elongated arms reaching out like claws. You think your light can dispel me? I am your fears made manifest. The figure crooned with an all-too-familiar voice that felt like an echo of their own doubts, reverberating in Linda's mind like thunder. In that moment of overwhelming dread, she felt her resolve wavering again. Could they truly face this evil? But before fear enveloped her once more, she thought of all they had experienced, the laughter, the dreams, and the bonds they formed. Memories ignited her spirit, a flame that refused to die. Hold on tight, Tommy shouted, desperately pushing his energy into the light. Jessie grunted in agreement, her determination blending with their collective force. In unison, they shouted their memories into the air, laughter by the beach. Family dinners. Friends through thick and thin. The darkness recoiled as if struck by a physical blow. They were pushing against despair with shared love, nostalgia, and resilience, refusing to trade their present for haunting shadows of the past. With every memory, the shadows scattered further, light rippling violently, illuminating the features of the dark figure, revealing its grotesque semblance that had once twisted their hearts. Its form began to quiver and shake as if the energy of their memories sapped its power. More. Jessie gasped. Everything we fought for, everything we've built. Then, from deep within, Linda unleashed a primal scream, inspiring all of them to summon their deepest fears, yet they transformed them, defeating shadows with love and joy, every shared laugh creating fissures in the dark wall before them. The shadowed figure began to dissolve, its shape slipping like smoke beneath the glow of their joint power. It was both liberating and terrifying. As it faded, its poisoned whispers turned into frantic cries, "You cannot escape. This is only the beginning. Enough." Linda gripped her friend's hands tighter. "We are more than our fears. We are light dancing in the dark." With renewed fervor, they pulled their strength into one last surge, and the light burst forth, a brilliant flash that exploded into the space around them. Time seemed to stop. When the light receded, they stood in a vast expanse, nothing but an infinite sky above them, remnants of darkness trapped behind them like the fading echoes of a nightmare. "Did we do it?" Tommy asked, eyes wide with awe. "Are we free?" The beauty surrounding them was both enchanting and daunting. The remnants of shadows lingered at the edge, hesitant, their once menacing presence now almost pitiful. Linda could feel the difference, though anxiety still buzzed at the back of her mind. There was a triumphant lightness within her spirit. "We faced it and chose love over fear. No darkness can trap us as long as we keep each other close." "Together?" Jessie echoed, and they formed a tight circle again, hearts thrumming with promise. "Always," Tommy affirmed. Grinning at the lingering remnants that writhing at the edges before fading away, the sun broke through in radiant colors, casting a warm glow over them, illuminating every angle with the beautiful hues of dawn: orange, pink, and gold. They had leaped through darkness and emerged into a new light, still holding hands, a symbol of their enduring bond. As they breathed in the fresh air, there was no longer an urgent dread but instead an electricity of possibility stretching ahead. It was a new beginning, a chance to reclaim their dreams without the burdens of yesterday. In that moment, they knew their dreams were not just a flicker coming from a candle but an unyielding fire sculpted in unity, rich in compassion, mighty against the shadows of despair. They owed it to themselves to nurture that bond, to protect it fiercely, to step into whatever came next with courage unyielding. With hearts lighter than they had ever known, they lifted their eyes to the horizon. "Let us go," Linda whispered, and they stepped forward together, embracing the promise of tomorrow. Their laughter rang out like music, carrying into the distance, setting the pace as they began to walk towards an unfolding adventure filled with faith, hope, and unyielding love. Don't forget this moment. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to dive deeper into these incredible journeys. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this amazing community. And flood the comments section with your theories about what happens next. Your thoughts matter to us. Let us spark a conversation. Don't Don't wait even one more second to share this adventure with at least 5 friends who need this encouragement in their lives. Together, we can conquer any shadows.